Hi, this is Harrison Page. You're listening to TV Confidential.
We were kids together. We went to some dances and fell in love.
It's like a bath. Come on in.
Oh, no, thanks. I got my hair wet.
I guess it's soon, huh?
How do you know?
A reminder that our second hour will include part 2 of a conversation that began last week with Peter Ford, son of Glenn Ford and Eleanor Powell, and the author of Glenn Ford Alive. Our second hour will also include an encore presentation of a conversation that originally aired last year with Tony Award-winning actress Dinah Manoff. In the meantime, Chuck Harter is with us this segment as we take a look at the career of Leslie Stevens. Leslie Stevens, the maverick television writer and producer who most of us think of as the creative force of The Outer Limits, the innovative but short-lived sci-fi anthology series that originally aired on ABC in 1963, but which is still in circulation today as a Blu-ray release through Kino Lorber. To some degree, most of us think of Leslie Stevens through his work at Universal in the late 60s and throughout the 70s, during which time he produced such series as The Name of the Game, Search, It Takes a Thief, McCloud, Buck Rogers, and the 25th Century, and the original Battlestar Galactica. What you may not know about Leslie Stevens is that he was also an accomplished playwright, including the Broadway production of The Marriage Go-Round, and a very successful independent filmmaker who made a splash in 1960 with the release of his debut film, Private Property. Private Property, a new wave style film that Stevens made for just about $40,000, but which went on to gross several $1 million despite being flagged as indecent. We'll talk about that in just a second, while also opening up doors for two of the stars of the film, Warren Oates and Leslie Stevens' wife at the time, Kate Manx. Joining us now is Dore Page. Dore is the author of Leslie Stevens Goes to Hollywood, Daystar Productions, Kate Manx, and the Making of Private Property, a detailed look at the life and career of Leslie Stevens that also includes the backstory of Daystar Productions, the production company that Stevens formed with Stanley Colbert and which Stevens intended to be the first truly independent film and television production company, and a book that also explores the sad and ultimately tragic life of Kate Manx. Kate Manx, the actress from the New York stage, whom Leslie Stevens refashioned as a Hollywood film actress after they married, but whose career never quite took off after the release of Private Property, while Manx herself died under mysterious circumstances in November 1964. We will delve into as much of that as possible. Dore Page, welcome to TV Confidential.
Thank you.
I understand this book originally started off as a magazine article about Kate Manx before it morphed into the book that eventually was published by McFarland. What first fueled your interest in Kate Manx, and when did you know that this was more than just an article, this was really a book?
Yeah, well, I started doing articles for Film Facts magazine. Do you remember Film Facts?
Yes, I do.
Yep.
I did some things for them. I interviewed Rita Lee and Mary Anders and Orville Hampton, but I just thought this fits my criteria of doing independent films from 1947 to 64. And a funny thing I got to remind you of, nobody knew anything about Private Property when I started the book. The film wasn't. That's the most interesting part of the whole thing. Film was lost, like a silent movie. So I got curious, but I spent about 4 or 5 years looking for any trace of Kate Manx or anything. I wasn't getting anywhere, and then suddenly, all at once, I found her son. I call him Steve. That's his nickname. That was also his father's nickname with some people. And he was living right in New York. And I went up there, and I, gave him my story, and they had like boxes of material. And he said, "Take the stuff and do what you can with it." And I just couldn't believe it. You're looking at it was like finding King Tut's tomb.
Yes, exactly.
There's a legendary connection to a Private Property. There's a big black leather-bound book of stills. That was the key key to them making the movie in like less than 10 days, and he had that right on top of all these boxes.
Yeah.
Well, stamped in gold. It said Leslie Stevens, dramatist, Private Property.
Yes, what Dore is talking about is one of the things that made Stevens innovative as a filmmaker, which enabled him to shoot Private Property for relatively little money on just 5 days, is he was shrewd enough to contract then photographer Alex Singer, who went on to become a major director in movies and television. He got Alex Singer to take photographs and basically use those photographs to storyboard every scene and every possible film angle so that he can shoot, so that he knew exactly what he needed to do and how he could do it in the 5 days he had to do it in.
Exactly. He had the lighting, he had a book of directions along with it, and knew right where the camera goes and what the lighting would be. But he had to do a lot of other things, too. Technically, things that probably don't matter today because it's all changed, but it was very dramatic. And the big thing I want to say, he wanted to make a movie on his own and be independent, but he didn't want to do one like Roger Corman or maybe somebody else where you just work outside the union. He wanted to make a high-quality looking film with all union people. And that was the challenge, to use, they didn't have handheld cameras and they didn't even have video yet, well, they did, but it was very primitive. But that was the big thing. He wanted to make a film just like they would make at the studio. That was a big part of it, getting some film that was just come out. He had to find a way to get electricity in the house without a generator. And he got some special fast film that had just been developed that didn't need a lot of light. It also all came together, very quickly.
And before we forget, Dore mentioned the house. Stevens filmed Private Property in the house that Kate Manx owned at the time. So it was, not only was it shot on a very tight budget using a lot of very clever innovations, but it was done using whatever space he had versus making on a sound studio, which is one of the reasons why he was able to keep it under budget.
Exactly.
That is one of the many things that Dore Page dives into in her book, Leslie Stevens Goes to Hollywood, Daystar Productions, Kate Manx, and the Making of Private Property, available wherever books are sold through McFarland Books, McFarlandBooks.com, as well as Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, wherever books are sold online. Stay with us, folks. We'll be right back.
This portion of TV Confidential is brought to us by our friends at Front Porch Realty, the community of realtors in the Northern Bay area of California that is committed to finding the solution that is best for their clients. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or looking to sell or lease your property in Northern California, call Karen Strain at 415-886-7411 or visit frontporchrealtygroup.com for more information on how they can help you.
One more item. If you're starting a company, particularly one that is in an emerging market, you know that averting any sort of legal dispute is crucial to your business plan. Our friends at Tectonic Law offer an array of services that can help you avoid and preempt future litigation while also developing and protecting your intellectual property and intangible assets. Tectonic Law serves the needs of a host of emerging industries throughout California and beyond, including industrial designers, beverage makers, artists, farmers, retail stores, health practitioners, wellness experts, cosmetics manufacturers, nonprofit organizations, innovators in sustainable practices, and libraries. Go to tectoniclaw.com to learn more about how Tectonic Law can help your business thrive. tectoniclaw.com. Rock solid representation for groundbreaking industries.
Hi, this is Erica, Vixen, Gavin, coming to you along with Chuck and Ed on TV Confidential. Here we go.
Chuck, you want to jump in?
Yeah. So, Dore, you found King Tut's tomb, obviously, and as you were going through the material, I'm sure that sparked your interest in making the book. As you were going through the material, what did you learn about Kate Manx, or what doors opened to your perception of who she was?
That inspired me to get going on it. The earlier question was, what made me say it was going to to be a book rather than a magazine article was I got very lucky in the beginning, and I found Stanley Colbert. He passed away in September of 2010. If I started this book just 6-7 months later, it never would have happened. But when I found him, I mean, that was it. He was the producer of the film, so he just gave me the lowdown on everything. And then I found a couple of other people. So then I quickly realized this is going to be a book.
As you were going through the material, finding the people, Colbert, etc., you obviously were learning more about Kate Manx. Initially, what doors opened for you as to who she was?
Well, in that material, there were some things, pictures, and a lot of history on her life in New York when she was a Broadway actress and things like that. I found some people through that material that would help. I found her sister living down in Florida, Mary, and this is odd, but her best friend, who was also very connected to Leslie Stevens. It's still a little strange how that happened, but I found her. Her name was Gail Winston. She's from North Carolina. She's still alive, in fact. And they were able to, really fill me in. So, in the beginning, I found all these people within 2 or 3 months. And that's mostly where the stuff came on Kate Manx. And there was also a lot of correspondence. It's like a formulate questions.
Mm-hmm.
Because she had quite a career, prior to going to Hollywood. She was a completely different person. Her name wasn't Kate Manx. It was, her regular name, Catherine Milroy. And briefly it was Catherine Farrell. She had a confusing amount of names throughout her life.
And she was married once before she married Leslie Stevens. And
exactly, Anthony Brady Farrell, the famous Broadway angel, right?
You mentioned Kate Winston. If I remember correctly, Stevens first met Kate Winston in New York when they both worked at Time. It was either Life magazine or Time magazine.
You know a lot about. Yeah, they were at Time. Her name was Gail Stein then, and she had just left her first husband and went up there, and she was working as a kind of an editor, copy editor, or some type of editor, and he was simply a copy boy. And her desk was right next to his. It's kind of a romantic story. And he just started telling her, he said, no, I'm not really this, I'm not really that. And she's used to those kind of lines. And he said, I'm really a playwright. So she said, okay, why don't you bring one of your plays in and I'll read it. And she was just, blown away by it. It was called Bullfight. And she said, she had to tell her the struggles he was having, trying to get it done. And she said, let me take over. And that was the beginning of his career. Bullfight was a huge off-Broadway success in 1954. And as soon as it opened, they just quit their jobs and just went forward.
When did Gail first meet Kate?
That's confusing. Well, she met her when they were about 19, somewhere in the 40s, the late 40s. Kate was born in 1928. It always says 1930, no matter how many millions of copies of my book sold. She was born in 1928, and Gail was born in 29. They met on a bus because they were modeling for a large department store, and they just hit it off as good friends. And then when she went to New York, Kate went to New York first, and then when Gail went there, she helped her out, got her situated and everything. But that's the only thing about the story that didn't really kind of ring true was that when Kate met Leslie, I said, well, how did she meet him? She said, well, she met him at a party. It was a party thrown by William Morris. They had the same agent. And I thought it was a little odd because, they were searching for money to put on Bullfight.
Mm-hmm.
And they had to get $10,000 very quickly. And I said, how come it never occurred to you to ask your friend, who's married to Anthony Brady Farrell? And this guy was, he handed out checks like just unbelievable.
Yes, like cotton candy.
She said it just never occurred to me to do it, but I don't know about that. But they were friends for about 7 or 8 years prior to that. They were good friends.
Dore Page is on the line with us. Dore is the author of Leslie Stevens Goes to Hollywood, a deep dive into the life and career of the maverick television producer and independent filmmaker that also explores the sad and ultimately tragic life of actress Kate Manx. Take a quick time out. We'll continue our conversation with Dore Page here on TV Confidential.
Who needs a vacation? Are you ready for an unforgettable getaway? Start packing your bags because Branson, Missouri, the vacation and entertainment capital of the U.S., is calling your name. For just $99 per person, here's what you get. A full 3-day, 2-night stay in a luxury resort hotel, a delicious full breakfast buffet every morning you're here, and when you call right now, free show tickets worth up to $100. That's right, free show tickets to an award-winning show on us. You don't have to leave the country for an amazing vacation. You can drive or fly to Branson and have an incredible time. Whether you bring in the whole family or just planning a romantic escape, this trip is built for you. We guarantee you'll love Branson. This is not a timeshare. It's just an unbeatable vacation deal for only $99 per person. You book now, you can use your tickets anytime this year. You don't even need to know your travel dates to lock in the special price. Hurry, because this offer won't last long. Call our Branson vacation experts today.
800-435-1887. 800-435-1887. 800-435-1887. That's 800-435-1887.